So, dear colleagues, the topic that I will present is more engineering, I would say, in a given perspective, but I put it in another context by entitling it Transforming Scientific Discovery into Market Solutions. So we try really to push our results really to a real implementation and to solve real problems. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to strengthen material. So basically imagine that you have a sand like this, and of course you see that the strength of it could not be that significant. So imagine this is a way to represent our material. Let me just change this. And let's imagine that from another side, we could have calcium carbonate in a solid form, like this one, that we can get by precipitation of a given process. So the goal for us, and this is what we try to do, is to put this calcium carbonate inside our porous material and basically transform our sand in a given number of hours in a rock. So this is basically the work that we are dealing with. So, and we call it this type of material bio-cemented material. So basically it's cemented material because we have those type of glue, these red things that you see here. But we added the term bio because we will use bacteria in our process and to enhance and make it faster. So why do we need to do this effort? And basically in the construction area, I think all of you are aware that those are the type of materials that we use today to reinforce our ground. So either we inject cement, lime, lean concrete, resin, all of them, they are bringing very high pH, bringing acidity to the ground, a lot of pollution. So basically what we try to do that is to move from these conventional soil improvement techniques that produce water pollution, growing waste, I was mentioning pH, and so on, CO2 emissions with the new type of material that we call microbially induced calcite precipitation. This is the process by itself. That is a natural process, so we will see. We are not doing anything else. It's very environmentally friendly. You can even drink the water after injecting your solution, and highly efficient. So, and this could be applied to all type of geotechnical or civil engineering applications, so from tunneling, erosion protection, and so on. So, and seismic retrofitting is a very important component that I will highlight later on. So basically, this is the context. So just to summarize it as an introduction, so we try to move from a sand to a material as strength and as stiff as this one by using a liquid agent that turns our sand in a rock, very fast process, long-lasting because we are creating natural rocks, and promoting a safer and more sustainable approach. So this field is a very fast-growing field, and basically when I started working in this area, it was around 2010-9, and when I published this book in 2013, we were seen as very exotic people because we were bringing something that nobody was really interested in. Since then, you see, we are having currently more than 400 journal papers published worldwide on this topic. So it shows that those bio and chemical processes and the mechanical component in it are really gaining momentum worldwide. It's not just in our case. This is a very long table of content. I will go very fast on many aspects, so don't worry about it. But I will start by explaining what are the chemophysical processes we are dealing with. So basically, there is nothing very special. We have urea, to which we add water. We can get carbonate and ammonium. And we will use bacteria to catalyze the process and make it faster. Basically, 10 power 14 faster than what could be happening in nature. If we add some calcium to our carbonate, we will generate calcium carbonate that we are looking for. And basically, we have just to add something from engineering perspective. We will extract this ammonium in a reactor before injecting it in the ground, so I will not go in details, but this allows to have engineering applications. So basically, what you see here in those tubes are this calcium carbonate happening inside the tube of water. So what we would like to reach is, instead of having it inside the water, to have it inside our granular material, so our soil. Oops, I am not having my, okay, no matter. To have it inside our porous material. So we'd like to create those bonds of calcium carbonate, those white things, inside the porous material. And basically, when we do that, when we inject in the ground, this is what we observe. You see, this is a sample of sand that was cemented with those minerals. So you see here the calcium carbonate minerals. We have our sand minerals. And more than that, actually, if we look through the sample, this is X-ray, micro-CT, 2D, and the 3D reconstruction. What we see is that it's uniformly distributed, which is very important for us. It means that we are strengthening the whole sample, the whole material. So if we compare with conventional grouting techniques that are used in civil engineering, basically people are using mainly cement. This is the size of the Portland cement, around 40 micrometer. So it means that below than this value, if you have a porous material, you cannot inject your cement. You cannot enter, so you cannot reinforce, you can do it just for higher. And then we have some micro cement that could go a little bit further. And then the other side, we have chemical grouting. In our case, this is where we are. So with our microorganism, so our bacteria, they have 1 to 2 micrometer of size. So this is the size that we can inject. However, after their solidification, and this is what you see here, this small amount will occupy a volume of almost 80 micrometer. So it's a volume that has almost 2 times the size of Portland cement. Then if we look at a higher level to ensure where this type of carbonate is going, so it's, as you can see it here on grains, it's put on the grains by themselves, so they are not clogging the material, which means from hydraulic conductivity perspective, it means in terms of water circulation, the water will continue flowing, which is different with cement. Cement will clog everything and you create an impermeable material. Here we keep permeability, we change it just by 1 order of magnitude, so we keep having our fluid circulating, so we keep having a porous material, but gaining strength, as we were mentioning. So there are 2 processes that we have to succeed in designing to bring this to an engineering perspective. We have to be able to design the injection and the transport. So we have to be able to know how much calcite we would like to have, at which distance from an injection point, and which density we would like to have. Then I will come back to the next point, is that when you have this calcite, we are interested to know what is the mechanical behavior that we are getting at that point. So to deal with that, I'm sorry, you will have to see some equations, but basically I will just show equations related to 2 aspects. So actually we treat the 2 aspects. Either we keep the ammonium in the ground or we extract it, so it does not change that much for the torque by itself. But if you extract it, the main thing that we have to deal with is calcite precipitation. So it's easier to design from a theoretical perspective. Otherwise, we have to deal with bacteria attachment and decay, urealysis reaction, and calcite precipitation also. So what are the tools, theoretical tools that we have? Actually, those who are familiar with the mechanics of porous material, so they know them. So basically, this is our porous material at the scale, what we call representative elementary volume. This is scale that allows to apply continuum mechanics. So it's centimeter scale. And in this scale, you can see that you have your grains. So you can put them in a block here, minerals. We have some calcite. We can put it a grain. Block here, calcite. We have water maybe flowing there. We can add another one. We can have air. Maybe if we are partially saturated, we can another one. So this is what we call phases. So we can approach a problem with phases, but we can approach it in another way, what we call species. In the sense, we describe each species separately. Both approaches are valid, but it's more common to use one or the other depending on the problem that we would like to solve. In our case, the problem that we have to solve is a problem that is fully coupled, what we call high interactions, in the sense that we have hydraulics, because we have the fluid circulating in our material. We have biology, because we have all those biological processes, chemistry, as I was showing you, but we have also mechanics, because we will change the porosity with the solidification. So we're having a problem that is highly coupled, in the sense that we have interactions between all those phases. So when we change the porosity, for instance, you will change the hydraulic permeability, you change the space allowed to bacteria, for instance, and so on. So to deal with this, we approached it by designing the model with species, but again, someone else could do it in a different way. This is not the most important one. So yeah, so we have the phases, as I discussed it before, but we will describe the things in terms of species. And basically, the species that we have are bacteria, ammonium, we can have urea and our calcium carbonate element. And we apply to them the mass conservation equation. So we will have equilibrium just for the solid part, but we need mass conservation for each of those things. So this is the amount of accumulated element in the spaces. This is the convective term. Here we have dispersion and diffusion, and we have the generation of a sink source. This is the fundamental equation that we will apply to each of our species. So that said, so we will come with additional equations that were mass conservation, but now we need constitutive equations to add. So what we need is precipitation rate, so how much we are precipitating. When we know how much we are precipitating, we can know how much we are changing the porosity of the medium. If we know change of porosity, we can know how much we are changing the permeability, and so on. And we can turn, and we have diffusion and dispersion. This is just in the case where we have injection of the solution in the ground, but this I will not discuss it here. So basically, we have this system of equations. Now, where we put the constitutive equation, this is almost, I think, the last equation that I have to show, but I think it's important for those who are familiar with the things, because basically what we are showing here, we start with conventional hydromechanical coupling. So any porous material could be soil, but you can imagine any other type of porous material, bonds in which you have blood circulating, they are obeying to the same type of equation. So this is what people could call bio-equation, or could even type of Terzaghi equation, where you couple the effect of mechanics and hydraulics. So the fluid circulating, how impacting the mechanics and the inverse. To this, what we are adding the bacteria and the chemistry interactions, if we have bacteria and solute bacteria, and then we have the entire coupling of all the things that allow to have all those terms that you see here. So we have 7 equations with 7 unknowns that we can solve. What we did is that we looked for experimental results, and there were not experimental results available, so we designed it, and we constructed in our campus in Freiburg these experimental facilities to develop our experimental testing to validate our models. So basically, those facilities are 2 independent compartments that you see. We have 16 injection wells. We incorporated drains all around the construction, and we have 2 times 75 cubic meters of soil. Which type of results we can get? So for instance, I'm just showing you an example. This is, we have an untreated part, for instance. We put the material, we did not inject. We have a kind of shear resistance of it. And then we can treat the material. We inject a given amount of solution, and we look to the evolution of our strength. And then we look also to the prediction of our model, and we can validate the things. So just to show you one example of evolution of the strength of the material. So this is the black curve, is the resistance, the tip resistance of the material at 50 centimeters from injection point before putting any solidification, so any injection of our solution. And this is what we get after injection of solution. So we are reaching almost 4 megapascal of resistance in comparison of something like 1 megapascal. So with this type of experiment, we get those type of results that you see, that we can analyze the diffusion of calcite and the elements. We can do plenty of things with those results, and then we can validate our model. For instance, this is one type of result when we show, when injecting the solutions, how the model is predicting the amount of calcite in terms of mass in the ground, and we can compare with the experimental results. So as soon as we master the diffusion of the solution and the amount of calcite in the ground, now we look how the mechanical behavior of the material is changing with that. So basically what we did, and this was part of the PhD thesis of Dimitrios Terzis long time ago, we looked to the evolution of the strength and the elastic parameters, this is Young modulus, in terms of amount of calcite. And we see that we can master, the more we put a given amount of calcite, we have a higher strength, and of course, then we have an asymptotic value here. We cannot go infinitely. So from this, we came with a solution that, depending on the type of the problem that we would like to treat, we need different amount of precipitate. So if we deal with liquefaction and all erosion or seismic loadings, or earthquakes, if you prefer, wording, so a small amount of calcite is enough for that. But if we are going for increasing capacity of your foundation, so maybe you need more of this calcite. So then we look at also to the strength of the material. Those are shear triaxial tests at different confining stresses. And basically what you can look to is that what was the friction angle and cohesion of the material before treating it. And here with 8% of calcite precipitate, we change slightly the friction angle, but mainly is the cohesion. So we are creating cohesion, for instance, in this case of almost 350 kilopascal by simply this small amount of calcite. So we try to understand what is the rheology behind, what are the physical mechanisms that produce this modification of the characteristics of the material. So for this, we use the microfluidic approach. So basically, we have those elements that you see here. This is the size of our ship. This ship is representing 1 meter long. I will show you an example with two ships. They have the same porosity of 0.5, but they have different distributions of the grain size. So the microship is put here. We will follow it with a camera. We have an injection of our solution from one side. We inject the other solution from the other side. And the type of results that we get, for instance, let's put ourselves at this point, almost in the middle of the system. And what you see here is the generation of the calcite inside our porous material. And we identify what we can call non-effective calcite crystals, which means that are not making glue between the two grains, and those who are effective crystals. We see it better in the other case with this distribution of the porosity, where we see, again, this effective calcite that is generated here, and we have non-effective one that is generated. So we have those two effects that we can see at a higher scale of observation. So we have an element where we are adding calcite, then densify the material. It's an additional solid part in the process. So we have more density here. At the same time, we have cementation as soon as we have this contact. So any constitutive model that you have to use to design your behavior should simply consider those two aspects in it. So I will briefly show two equations for a possible constitutive model. So this is a model like, for those who are familiar with more Coulomb concept, so it's the same time, it's a frictional model, so this is the friction of the material. And any type of this model, what we need to introduce in it is this density, so we have to increase the density of the material and from plasticity perspective, and the bonding coming from this cohesion that we are generating. And basically, if you do that, by having your elastic yield limit growing with those two components, you allow to have a higher strength, and then you come back to ultimate strength of the material that was the initial one before loading it. And by putting this in a constitutive model, I can just simply show you here two examples where the model is able to reproduce what experimentally we are measuring. So, based on all those things, as I mentioned in the title of the talk, we thought about technology transfer, and then I would like to show you where we are today. So basically, in this project, so it was mentioned in the introduction, so we started by an advanced ERC project. Before that, we have an NSF project, but let's say this is the largest part, 6 years of advanced ERC. We were able, in addition to the research and development that I was showing, we had the 3 patents that we developed and 3 exclusive microorganisms for us. We had also a proof of concept ERC that helped us to have prototype for production unit. We showed you what we developed in Freiburg on the Blue Factory campus as facilities. We developed the software with all those things that I was showing you. And now we moved again. We had additional 3 million euros. We started almost 9 months ago with this EIC-ERC project, where we have test validation in larger scale. So basically, this is what we did this summer. This summer, we had 3 execution of project, 1 erosion protection in the south of France. This is slope mitigation in Romania, and this is ground improvement also in Romania. So we are at that stage of providing further knowledge and applying all the knowledge that we developed at this larger scale. So to conclude, the main characteristics of the solutions that we developed is that they work for all types of soils, from clay to gravel, also demolition aggregates, can be applied via injections, as I was showing in some of the slides, but there are other approaches for it, and depending on what type of application you think of, and especially we are considering mitigation of liquefaction potential. We can have mixing or short clay. This is something we developed recently, is one of the recent patents related to this. And also, and the very important problem in civil engineering and construction sector, all demolition waste. With those type of approaches, we can revalorize this type of materials. So, as you can guess, this work is an effort of a large group of people. So this is the group of people in a part of my lab. So I would like to acknowledge contribution of Dimitrios Terzis, who is the group leader, who is managing all the activities and coordinating all the efforts. So thank you very much to all of those who are here. And I would like also to thank different people at the EPFL level. First of all, Rizlan Berni-Latmani, I don't know whether she is here, for all scientific support that she provided us for the beginning activities almost 15 years ago, and it was really well appreciated. I would like to thank the people of EPFL campus for the logistical support, Martin Gotthardbach and Claude-Alain Jacot. Our former deans, Marine Anderson, Claudia Binder, but also Melchior Allet, Arash ENAC, for a wonderful administrative support. EPFL Research Office provide us all-time wonderful legal support. So I would like to thank Sonia and Irina. Irina, I saw her that she was here today. And also EPFL platforms, including the PICs. You saw some of our PICs that were developed by Pascal Turberg. So really, this helped us a lot. And thank you very much for your attention.